Just hang on a second. It may not even work. This is awesome. All right, Josh, you're up. Or I'm just gonna do it the old-fashioned way. It's not. It's extended the display. It's not doing what it did before. Man. Well, make it quick. Sweet. We may not have slides, but that's okay. Yep. And I can't even move it over there. Hang on, let me try something.
Sure, video, so I think you did something weird.
No, I didn't do anything. Why did you stop? Thanks, asshole. Oh, hey. But that doesn't display what I want it to display. Hey, how about that? All right. Cool. Hi. I'm Jimmy. So definitely want to thank the guys from DerbyCon for letting me talk. The guys from Lars, met them at Cyber Defense. They've always been great to me. So big thanks to them and for everyone being here. So this is me. I don't have my glasses on today, so you can't call me Four Eyes. I've got contacts in, but that's okay. Do a lot of network stuff, a lot of Linux stuff, and obviously security stuff. So Strc, as I like to call it, is my master's project. It's the Security Training and Research Cloud. Whatever that means to you is okay. Does anybody hate the word cloud besides me? Okay, thank you. So cloud is a terrible word. Nobody should ever use it for any reason, but it's a nice buzzword. So when you're in academia and you need to impress professors, you're like, hey, it's a cloud, and they love it. So yeah. So is what I did is we identified a need for this, and we went ahead and said this will be my master's project, and only cost about $1,500. It says $3,700. That's if you bought all the equipment that we use. Some of it we had laying around, but I went ahead and priced it all out. It's about $3,700. It's 6 different servers. So to give you an idea of how this happened, the cyber defense team at U of L said we need to find something better than me coming in 2 hours before the meeting, reformatting all the machines, setting them up, and doing a training session. So why don't we just do VMs? Because that seems like a good idea. And we went through and we started looking, okay, do we want to use VMware? Do we want to use Zen? Do we want to use KVM? And we need it to be dynamic. We need to be able to have multiple teams compete. The red team needs to be able to get into it remotely because we don't always have those assets available to us at the university. So we can have people remote into the system. Everyone needs to be able to access it, and it needs to run as smooth as possible, and hopefully it doesn't break. So it's actually an infrastructure as a service. Cloud is the, I guess, more technical term to use, and it at least is more descriptive than it's a cloud. We've got 4 1950s, which are actually 5, right? Yeah, 5. Those are our compute nodes. They're all running Zen server. We went ahead and went with Zen server. That was free, so everyone likes free, and it also had a nice management console to it. And we got the the 2950. That's the SAN. It's got 660 gig hard drives. Not really big, but that's okay. This is really meant more of a proof of concept and is more targeted at cyber defense, but it's something that we wouldn't be opposed to scaling eventually. And the thing that I like about it is I only have one switch. No routers, no firewalls, nothing. Everything that actually runs on the network is virtual with the exception of that one switch. So that's the pictures of it, because you got to prove that you actually did it. This is the physical layout of the network. Every server has 2 connections into it. One is for management and storage access. The other one is for the actual guest access. So if you had a public IP coming in, it would go in on that second port. And then you can see the NAS is in the only 2 gigabit ports in that entire switch. Awesome. So I don't know if anyone's familiar with XCP, but that's what we started with. It worked out well. It was the open source version of Zen Server. Now that 6.2 has been open sourced by Citrix, we just went ahead and did a rolling pool upgrade. FreeNAS is what we decided to use for the storage component. It's pretty simple to configure. It's got a nice little web GUI. Not a whole lot of how do I do this? It's pretty straightforward. It's using ZFS, and that gives us the equivalent of a RAID 5 without having a hardware RAID controller. So it's all like a software RAID. If you haven't seen ZFS, go check it out. It's pretty cool. And we're using Viata for our actual routers. If you haven't heard of Viata, check those guys out. They have an enterprise grade product, I guess you could call it, that has some other fancy stuff to it, but they also have an open source version. They were recently bought out by Brocade, so Brocade owns them now. But it's been really successful for us. It's got a Cisco or Juniper style command line interface. So if you're familiar with those types of devices, this fits right into it. There's no web GUI unless you pay for the subscription edition, I think is what they call it. But you should use the command line anyways. Just do it. Alright. But with the same thing with that is you can go ahead and push physical devices in. You can set up different ports on that switch and put them on the right VLANs, and you can have a physical router segment the network if you really want it to. We've put PIX firewalls, ASA firewalls in there. Anything you could possibly want, you can bridge into it, or use a different software. Hey, I like pfSense. All right, well, we'll throw up a pfSense VM instead. So it's really up to you how you want to design this, and that's probably one of the best aspects of it. So because of that reason, we did not go with any of the automation software. And you become the old man that yells at a cloud all day long because it doesn't do things for you. And that's okay. The biggest problem that we saw was that the software that's out there right now doesn't provide us with the types of deployments that we need to have set up. A lot of them do their own virtual routers. So if I need to give a team access to their router so that they can set up their own firewall, I can't do that with a cloud automated router. So this gives them the actual control to say, here's what I want in my firewall, here's what I'm going to allow in and out of the network, and that's what they have to do to prepare for the competitions. And really, KISS method. I had to set up another cloud, and we put Cloud Stack, and it was just, I'm surprised I have hair. So we use it obviously enough for cyber defense, since that's where it kind of started out of. We've also used it for the network and information security classes here at U of L, and the InfoSec class ended up making a replica of what I did, and that's all that one does, is it's just for the InfoSec class. And we've had, I think, over 80 VMs, I think is what we did for the InfoSec class running. That's just over 5 really crappy old servers that you can buy for like $100 a piece. And no one ever complained about latency or, hey, my VM isn't working right. Everyone thought everything went real smooth. We were using XVP, it's a Zen VNC proxy, for them to actually get GUI access. So if you haven't heard of that and you use Zen, check that out. That was about the only thing that really got sluggish, and it's because it's a Java applet. It's whatever. You just deal with it. We also started up a small little e-learning thing on there that we use for the InfoSec class. It's just a Moodle install, but we really tailored the instruction to go with the other lab that we had set up. So we would make videos and actually do like a pen test that they were going to do, but just on a different network than they had. So we weren't giving them the answers, but we were giving them the methods and the tools that they needed, and they had that to access 24/7 as long as the class lasted. And everyone really liked that. I mean, they'd get on there and click on videos. We also integrated Big Blue Button into Moodle, which is a web conferencing tool. It's everything that we've done is free, so Big Blue Button's another nice one. And you can have web chat, you can put slides up, and it actually syncs the slides across all of the users. So when I click next, everyone sees the next slide. You can draw on it, you can share your desktop, and it also does recording. So we would record those web conferences, let students who were maybe online or missed class that day or whatever go back, review that recording, and figure out what they need to do to complete the lab successfully. And then darknets. Those are fun. If anyone hasn't played with darknets, it's like an internet within the internet that no one else can get to but you. So that came out of our networking class. A bunch of us got really bored one night and said, hey, we're just gonna make our own network. Why not? And it's actually spawned across the entire state of Kentucky now. So there are access nodes throughout Kentucky that you can get onto the network and do whatever you want, and everything is encrypted across the internet. We just use the internet for transport because nobody wants to go run all that cable. And we've had a couple people come in and say, hey, I want to do this project. I need a couple VMs, and the department doesn't want to support that particular project or doesn't necessarily feel safe with it. With what we do, since everything was really cheap, we don't really care if you break it because it's not hard to fix. But you can just give someone a VM, doesn't have to have a network connection at all, and they can do exploit research on it if they want. Hey, I need to load a virus onto this computer and watch what it does through the next 3 days. And I need it for my project, for my research paper, whatever. So we've had individual people come through and say, here's what I need, and we support that. And always, well, hopefully always will, unless someone else takes it over or someone throws it in the trash. So I try to make a good thing, and of course I can't make the best things because I had a $0 budget for my project. So the servers that I got are actually mine, and I'm just letting the university hold on to them until a later time that they can replace them with their own. The switch is just a little 10100 switch. It only has 2 gig ports, so you're not going to do a whole lot of data transfer on that. But in this type of environment, you don't really need that. Hey, I just need to launch an SMB exploit, and I just want to make sure it works. All right, cool. Set up a couple VMs, and you can do that. Or in the case of cyber defense, we want to set up a mock cyber defense competition network, and we want a red team to attack us, and we want to actually be able to defend it and have to install updates and go through everything. All right, cool. Well, we can deploy that really fast, a lot faster than me going in and reformatting 10 systems in the lab. There's not a lot of RAM in this. There's only 16 gigs per server. That's something that definitely should be upgraded when they upgrade the servers, as well as the SAN is not that large. So you're under a terabyte. You're not going to have a lot of room for a lot of VMs that, like Windows VMs basically, is where you run into problems because they take up a lot of space. You want a bunch of Linux VMs? Awesome. We'll give you like 100 megs to work with. Go. We'll make 1,000 of them. But we could always use that. And then Zen also, I haven't looked at it enough, but there is a GPU pass-through with Zen. And so we want to look at doing something with CUDA and giving people the opportunity to do brute forcing on passwords and cracking on passwords using CUDA. We've got a parallel systems class that actually does a lot of CUDA stuff, and we want to try to bring some of that into this environment and kind of bridge those two classes. And one of the other things that I don't know, if anybody knows how to do this, please tell me, but I've not yet found a way to clone an entire network at one time. I can clone VMs, but I can't clone an entire network, which means I need to be able to create a new network, clone all the VMs, and make sure all the network interfaces on the new network, and probably change some IPs. So that's something that hopefully one of these guys, when you do your master's project, can start working on. So that's something that I definitely want to look at. It's not something that I know has been solved yet. So there's $1 million idea for everyone. Whoever gets to it first, you just go right ahead. I just sold it to you for free. So. That's the gist. Do you have questions about said cloud? Yes, sir.
So why Zen over something like VirtualBox?
Um,
Management console,
the management console is nice, and it's also, you can cluster all the servers together into one resource pool. So if I have a server that I need to do maintenance on, I put it into maintenance mode, and it actually moves all the VMs across the other servers, take that one down, do whatever I need to do, bring it back up. Yeah. So, and that's a free thing that you can do. And with 6.2, I think you might actually get storage motion as well. So you can actually go between data stores, and I'm pretty sure that's a free thing too. I could be wrong on that, so don't quote me on it. But Zen offers a lot of functionality that a VirtualBox wouldn't really get to that point.
So how does the IT department, how do you sell them on you standing up basically
So
and get a virtual host?
So they're not terribly opposed to it. With our particular setup, they didn't really know about it. I'm not gonna lie. So we have a unique situation though. The CCS department here at U of L, we actually run our own network. Our ISP is basically U of L's IT department. So we run all of our own infrastructure. We have our own networking, everything, our own IP allocations. So we kind of just do whatever we need to do, and that's the whole purpose of the network that we got, is for research. So this definitely fit that bill, and I'm not sure that they would necessarily be opposed to something like this. They would probably want us to pay them to build it, and pay them to maintain it, and pay them to pay them, and then pay them again. But
See, I on both sides. This is at a university.
Right.
Also graduate student at the same university.
Yeah, I know that feeling.
The opposing forces.
Yeah, it's you just have to kind of work with them. You get a good rapport with your network guys that actually make the decisions, and you can make some other things happen. There are other clouds at U of L that we don't run. So, you had a question? So for you, you could probably set one up in maybe a couple hours tops. I worked on this for actually a year. It's only the master's project is only a semester long class, but I started on it early, and the biggest reason was we had those questions: do we want to use Zen? Do we want to use KVM? Do we want to use VirtualBox, VMware? Because we had a VMware license too that we could have taken advantage of, but that was a lot of that time I spent doing research on what are the products that are out there, and that's where we got to Zen Cloud Platform and now Zen Server 6.2. So when we deployed the CCS Department's cloud after this one got done, to just set up the infrastructure and get something working, it took us like 5 hours, I think. So it's not terribly hard to set up. And if you're not setting up like Cloud Stack, it's like done. All right, install, add everything to a pool, and go have fun. That's all there is to it. Other questions? Yes. Well, Zen or Citrix, you can purchase Zen Server from. They have paid products. They have supported solutions that you can pay for, just like VMware does. And they also have a free conversion tool. So if you want to move from ESXi to Zen Server Cluster, then you just convert all those VMs. We didn't run into that because we were starting from scratch basically. We knew we needed to build something that we could build off of, And so we didn't have any preconceived notion of we have to be able to convert these VMs, we need this critical infrastructure. There, nothing of that sort was involved. But there are tools out there that you can have them convert your VMware, or I think they even do Hyper-V to the Zen server. Yeah. It would run across all of them. It actually, when you create a new VM, it looks at all the servers, finds out which server has enough resources to bring that VM up, and hopefully isn't overworked, and pushes it to that VM, or to that server.